You've been serving everyone, yet being served the least. Not anymore. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode. We are looking at a radio show that I did in Gaborone, Botswana, Moments of Zen. I did this show with Dr. Mwamba Nsebula, and the host was Bame. We talked about gender-based violence, and I was on the show as a special featured guest to talk about solutions to gender-based violence. Of course, I talked about the blueprint to personal freedom, and in this episode, you guys are going to hear that audio that happened. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful. You guys get into it. It was really good, and I hope you enjoy it.
Guess if I'm about to engage in what I'm not alone in studio. I have a team to talk about GBV, but from a different perspective. We're not talking about the stats and all the sorts and the definition. We're talking about solutions now. Because the year 2022, we have to move forth and really try to have an understanding of exactly what you can do to get rid of GBV. And in studio, I have Latoya Deshawn, right?
Yes.
There you go. And I also have Dr. Nsebula, of course, the producer in Extra Effect. I'm going to call you the producer of the show.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning to you. I hope you had a sincerely amazing Sunday morning.
I did. Yeah? Thank you very much. Yeah. And
Latoya?
Yes, it's been going really well.
How's your Sunday?
It's good. Sunday, fun day.
It's a very nice Sunday. Easy Sunday today, right?
Yeah, well, you know the partying haven't started yet.
Yeah,
so
okay.
You got to wait till we get out of church.
There you have it. Conversation today. Doctor, would you introduce what we're on about today?
Today we want to explore GBV from a different perspective. And we are fortunate we have Latoya, who's going to give us a different insight into the whole concept of GBV. We know the stats. In Botswana, 1 in 3 women has had an encounter related to GBV. And though government has put in measures and enacted laws, but the statistics shows that it's getting worse. So what should we really be doing? What are we missing? And I think that's what we're going to be talking about, the missing link in the management or the control of GBV.
There you have it. Latoya.
Yeah,
please introduce yourself, introduce why we're here, and let's go, man. Like, what's happening? What's happening in 2022? What do you have for us?
Latoya Deshawn.
Yeah.
I'm American Native.
Yeah.
I do work with helping, Black folks across the diaspora make healthy, informed decisions in their personal and professional life. And so we know that GBV is a problem everywhere. And so I created the blueprint to personal freedom. And it's 3 pillars. And the first one is called Behind Every Face is a Story. And that's really talking about mindset. And then we enter the dreaming zone after that, which is really the strategy. And then, it all ends with community. And it's all about who are the people around you to help you get to freedom. So I'm happy to lend my perspective on that. And that's usually how I go about making healthy, informed decisions and how I help others.
I want to jump into that whole statement you made, freedom. What do you mean freedom in this instance now?
As it relates to GBV, I mean, being able to just walk outside without having to fear being judged just for how you look, and then the comments that go along with that. I mean, oftentimes women feel the safest at home, and then when they go outside, they're always on guard. So also freedom is just not having to always be on guard when you're in public and around people. And unfortunately, it's not just with men, it's with women also. Yeah.
A lot of people would jump into social media and they would literally just howl at, the way women are not safe, like you say, the guard always up, but they never really give action solutions towards that. Why are you doing that? Is there a story behind that?
Absolutely. Behind every face is a story.
Right.
And so, although I can't really speak to violence with another man for myself, but there's so much emotional violence that we could talk about. everything starts with your childhood trauma and how you were raised. And oftentimes we really just don't want to call a thing.
Right.
And that's why we end up meeting other folks who end up treating us exactly like how we were treated at home, because we're not willing to say out loud, this is what happened. Also because we think that the people who we're talking about are going to leave us.
Right.
But there's so much healing in being able to just tell your story. So for me, I like child oppression at work, childhood trauma, tumultuous relationship with my mom and just all my family members. And then you talk about how it impacts your health, chronic health. So a lot of women are also suffering with health problems. And that's sort of the last step in the body saying, look, you need to do something about what's happening in your life. So for me, I've suffered from all of those things. And so I just had to stop. And my first principle in my company is you must decide. And on May of 2019, I decided no more. And so I have a term, a tagline: you've been serving everyone, yet being served the least. Not anymore.
That's a beautiful statement, though. Amazing. Doctor, in your years of practice, like she said, your body health-wise, it's the last step to tell you that, no, this is enough now. Have you faced patients with that sort of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we know it. Mental health has an impact on your physical health. It's just the way the body talks to itself, asking you to take a break or asking you to make a decision. And I like the statement that she makes, that sometimes we need to look back to where it all started, right. Childhood. And so as we try to unpack GBV, let's not leave the young men behind, the 14-year-olds behind, because they will grow up to be men. And what they're experiencing when they are 13, 14, 15 is what they will manifest when they are now 30, 40, 50 and above. So your mental health is important for your physical health. A lot of conditions that we suffer now can be traced back to our mental well-being. Things like depression. When you are depressed, you tend to eat more. When you eat more, you put on weight. When you put on weight, you may end up with diabetes. So you see the whole linkage there.
Right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a quick break, right? Pay some ads. I'll come back. Now I want to talk about how your company defines GBV and what steps you're taking towards now empowering other black women out there to move in the same light, to say enough is enough. I've had it. It's time for me to make a change in my life, right? And also in society. So I'll be back of this. Gabz-FM, Power to Engage Your World. Moments of Zen. We're talking GBV from a different perspective. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Time 55 is the time of Gabz-FM, Power to Engage Your World. Moments of Zen. Found only and exclusively to the official soundtrack to your weekend. Today we're talking about GBV from a different perspective. I have Latoya Dashawn in the building, as well as the great Dr Nsebula also in the building as well. Right, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Right?
So step one is tell your story.
But before that, let's define GBV from your perspective. From your company's perspective.
In its simplest terms, it's violence against women, whether it be sexually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, but it's the violence against women.
And we always miss out on that emotionally and psychologically aspect as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we always miss it out. We never really get down to it, like what it really means. How would you define it now to say psychological and emotional abuse for women?
For me, it's again, not being able to feel comfortable just speaking. And then also the pushback that you get when people are blaming you. Literally, I call it weaponizing your voice.
What about women who blame themselves?
Well, they're doing the best that they can. They don't really have a space where someone has said to them, no, it's not your fault. No, you didn't do this, and give you some actually real information about it. So it's understandable that they will go to blaming themselves. I mean, I was a big person who always looked at myself first. say, it's me. But through wise counsel, I've learned to shift that and to get more educated on what is actually happening.
Would you say that's self-inflicted abuse now because you would blame yourself? Like women who would blame themselves for being abused, would you say now you're self-inflicting yourself as an emotional abuser to yourself as well?
You know, here's the thing. Yes, but also learning that you have to give yourself grace. And also understanding that if that is what served you in that moment, that's what you had to do to get by. So also knowing the outside of that, what I want to do is just let them know it's okay. It's okay that this is what you had to do because this was your only option of what you felt to free yourself. So it's okay. It just depends on who they have in front of them, who's going to support them. Or again, that's the emotional abuse. Like someone could be in front of them saying, it is your fault. Yes, you did do this and you can be giving you all these steps. Right. And they don't know nothing.
There we go. I love that. Let's talk about the options. Let's talk about the steps now.
Yeah. Before we, if I can just jump in there.
Yeah, true.
When you ask about is it self-abuse, in Africa, we have this culture of silence. So the young girls are brought up knowing that you don't talk back. And as they grow and get into relationship, they have that belief that if I talk against my partner, he will go away or he will beat me or whatever. And the society will also tend subtly to side with the abuser by saying, well, the girl must have done something wrong. And because of that, so now the girl starts believing that maybe it is true, it is her fault.
Right.
And she starts blaming herself.
So so you're saying we can't conclude that it's self-inflicted abuse. Well, we would say it's culturally based that you would.
In fact, GBV is a community problem. It's not one person problem, it's a community problem. Because the people who are abused live in our communities. The people who abuse people also live in our community. So until the community starts saying enough is enough and calling out people for what they are, we shall continue having a GBV.
Right. But now, let's talk about the steps that you're mentioning within your company, right? The steps. Let's talk about the steps.
Absolutely. Yeah. So step one is tell your story. I'm reading a book right now by Oprah. It's called What Happened to You. You know, a lot of times people will say, what's wrong with you? And that automatically puts people on the defense. But to his point, it being a community problem, we don't know it's a problem if we're not calling a thing a thing. So when you sit down and actually write the story and go back and highlight what actually is happening, it gives you a clear understanding of this is how this equals this. And so oftentimes we don't have that alone time. We don't give ourselves that time to be able to tell our story and just to call it out. And so that's the first step. And so that's a part of self-awareness. Also, with self-awareness comes accountability. And so oftentimes people are just scared to see themselves because when they do, they think that it's, again, their fault why they're here. And it's really not. But that's the first step. And I call it's the most difficult step in the steps to freedom, because once you do that, it's going to free you and open up such a new world for you. You'll be able to breathe a little bit more. So step one, tell your story. What happened to you is so important. Yeah. Step two, uncomfortably comfortable. You have to know that when you tell this story, you're going to learn some things about yourself. You're going to be like, well, dang, you know, my family has been crap the entire time. These friends are horrible. They speak to me bad. They don't encourage me, you know. So uncomfortably comfortable is about moving through discomfort and questioning everything, every part of your life of how you lived. You know, and part of that is, like you just said, self-inflicted, how we speak to ourselves.
Right.
So in this stage, this is where I'll cut you off and question what it is you just said about yourself. So, I don't think I can leave because I have my kids, and you know, I'm gonna wait until my kids go to college or something like that. But it's like, is that true? Do you have to wait until that happens? You know, and so really just interrupting those patterns, those belief systems, those thought patterns, and those emotional reactions is step two. Yeah, but that's when you also get to write a new vision for yourself. You know, the life that you want to live for the rest of your life. And a lot of times in this stage, people aren't getting real with what they want, they're not finishing the sentence. You could probably say, yeah, you know, when I grow up, I want to have a house and kids or whatever that is. But when I challenge them to write that out, they always get stuck. They really haven't thought about it. Again, we're not really being intimate with ourselves. Intimacy is one of my favorite words. But it's about being intimate with yourself and like really understanding who you are. And now, since you're in this discomfort, you might as well create a new story.
You know, it's very interesting that you talk about a new story. Just before Moments of Zen, I had an interview with Botswana Endometriosis Foundation. They're talking about certain women who cannot have kids, you know, because of the condition. Right? Suppose now a woman is married and she discovers later into the years why she can't have children because of endo, right? And now the abuse would sprout out because now it's like you're failing the family because of your condition. You are a failure, and eventually she would come off now and say, yes, indeed, I am a failure. I must say she's a failure, by the way.
Yeah.
But she'll come off and say, yes, indeed, I failed the family. She blames herself for that, right? Self-infliction, not too sure about that aspect. But she's got a vision that she wrote down. So are you telling me that if she had a vision to say, I wanted to have kids, these amount of kids, I can't have 2 kids, I can't even have 1 child, I wanted to have a nice family, nice house, she now needs to disregard that whole dream or vision that she had as an 18-year-old and move on to...
Is that true, though?
No.
Can she not have kids just because she's not physically having kids? Can she not have kids?
That's a good statement. I want to understand that part now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, you have to question everything.
Yeah.
You know, mothering is not just from having kids. In fact, in COVID, we saw a lot of people who have kids don't even treat their kids well when they have to stay home with them all day.
Yeah.
So I argue that a lot of these people aren't even good parents.
but it's the discomfort, like you state, of having to accept that my 18-year-old dream or vision is no more, right? So are we like, now you have to adjust to it? Is that what you're saying in step 2?
So writing a new vision is questioning that. So number one, I would really get her to understand, is that true? Can you really, you can have kids. They come and you can get them all different ways now. Okay. Yeah. Especially now, you know, so, even people, let's say, who do have the money, they're freezing their eggs and doing things like that. Adoption is still very present. So I would question her to think about and open up her mind to what kids look like, and that she still deserves to have that if she wants to. So in writing a new vision, it would probably include something like, I'm going to adopt kids, or I'm going to be a mother to my nieces and nephews and play a major part there, things like that. So I would stop her because she can still have that dream.
Nice.
She can.
All right, there we go. Yes.
If we go back into our cultural history in Botswana, most of Africa too, there was a lot of involvement by the family. They want to help you. And what we have lost now is we're no longer talking to each other. And in the past, if your scenario, a woman, a couple, let's not say a woman, it's a couple, they can have children. The family will come together and identify maybe another child from another family and say, this child is now your child. And I've got friends right here in Botswana who were brought up not by their biological mothers, but by by someone who was given to them to say, this is your mother. So you can have a child, as she says, there are many other ways. However, even if the couple can't bear a child, that is no excuse for one to resort to violence, or whether physical, emotional, or financial violence to the other partner, because you went in that as a couple knowing that you are in love with each other. Why should the love disappear because other challenges are emerging? And that is what makes GBV a community problem. If the community is there to say, look, we've got your back, you can't have a child, but here's a child, it's coming to your house.
Yeah, I like that statement. Like she say, can you really not have kids? right? Can you really not have kids, right? You have to now understand that different ways of actually having children out there, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for that. All right, let's go step three.
So step 3 is iron sharpens iron. And that's about creating new habits. So after you wrote this vision, right? Because I'm not going to have you be in that negativity. I'm going to question it. I'm going to interrupt your whole life. And you wrote this new vision for yourself. Now we need to set up daily habits for you so that you can begin to move towards that. Okay. So if you want to have a kid, if it's a big, long process, how do we start today of getting to that process? If it's adoption, or if it's freezing your eggs, or if it's getting another child from a family member, what is the actual steps that will make this real?
And that is what makes GBV a community problem. If the community is there to say, look, we've got your back. You can't have a child, but here's a child. It's coming to your house.
Yeah, I like that statement. Like she say, can you really not have kids? Right? Can you really not have kids? Right? You have to now understand that different ways of actually having children out there. Right?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for that. All right, let's go step three.
So step 3 is iron sharpens iron. And that's about creating new habits. So after you wrote this vision, right? Because I'm not going to have you be in that negativity. I'm going to question it. I'm going to interrupt your whole life. And you wrote this new vision for yourself. Now we need to set up daily habits for you so that you can begin to move towards that. Okay. So if you want to have a kid, if it's a big, long process, how do we start today of getting to that process? If it's adoption, or if it's freezing your eggs, or if it's getting another child from a family member, what is the actual steps that will make this real? And we also want to get a timeline too. We don't want things to just go so long. So through establishing daily habits, and I call this the hierarchy of personal freedom, you have to be spiritually grounded first, because you got to know that when you're creating these new habits, these people that were around who were not supporting you and affirming you may need to go. Okay, and that's step 4. We'll talk about that in a second. But they may need to go, and you have to understand that spiritual grounding is sometimes an alone place when you're starting out, and that just changing what you watch, what you look at on social media, and challenging yourself to read more, get educated more, is some of the habits that you need to do to start showing up for yourself, right? Because you have to do that before you even want to go in and start raising children in the first place. Okay, you have to know that this community problem, everybody's not going to be agreeing with you, but you have to be so grounded in who you are. And most of the time, when you show up for yourself, you start to gain that personal strength.
What about relapses?
Oh, I mean, congratulations, you're a human being.
Okay.
That's going to happen, but through daily habits, you still know how to bounce back. You know, you just take an athlete. They might go eat all the food in the world, but I know they're going to go and run and then do their bike ride. They've already sharpened themselves. So, but again, what you're also speaking of is just you have to have a huge amount of grace for yourself. And in the community, there just ain't room for grace in the Black community at all. And that's why spiritual grounding is first, because you know that the God that you serve is a God of grace. So start there, stay there for a while if you have to.
I'm gonna give you a scenario of one time a caller called in, right, where I was having the conversation, I think late last year, and she was going through moving away from a very toxic marriage, right? And the conversations we were having on air, she called in and then she said she's relapsing from the steps she's been making, the habits she's been trying to make daily. You said it's okay, she's human. How'd you get back again onto the horse and just move?
Well, for me, step 4 is your vibe, your tribe.
Right.
Right. So who are the people around you who are empowering you as you're going forward? Where is your safe space to be able to talk about it, to say this is what's happening for me? Where is the person in your life who's been where you want to go? Right. That's mentorship right there. And so, again, changing your community is incredibly important so that you are stronger. You're doing something completely new. And you got to know that the people in your life may not be these people that are going to get you where you need to go. And you have to be strong enough to step away. Now, I will tell you, even myself, I'm a bit estranged from my family right now.
Right.
And I don't really think I'm estranged. I just think I stopped calling and they never used to call. But I remember my mom would say, if you don't have us, you don't have anyone. She said that for years, not realizing like I was still going to school. I was getting educated. I was meeting new people everywhere. I had people that cared about me. I just was never able to tap in because I was still in these systems that controlled me and held me down. But again, once I started serving myself and also getting the mentorship, the wise counsel, I was strong enough to move past that discomfort and with information, know that this is what I want to do. And the impact may be that I can't hang around these family members the same way.
Yeah. We can also borrow from other interventions that we have had in the country. For example, when we started the antiretroviral therapy, one of the interventions we put in place was to have the person who is affected or infected with HIV, when they are ready to start treatment, to also have a buddy. The buddy was somebody to be there because we knew that it will be difficult, and there will be times when the person may feel like enough is enough, I'm giving up. So you want somebody to hold your hand. It's the same thing with GBV, toxic relationship. I've made a decision to move on, but I keep looking back. So you want somebody to support you, to say, look, it's going to be uncomfortable, but look at the end result. It will be better when you move on than if you stay on in this toxic relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask one question, and I think because the doctor talked about culture. What I know is, growing up in Africa as an African child, is that divorce or leaving a marriage as a woman is shame, right? Brings shame to the family. You say your mother said, Latoya, you did mention that your mother did mention that one time that...
all the time.
Without us, you are nothing, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, along those lines. Now, shame... A woman leaves a toxic relationship for her own good. She goes back to her family rejects her. In most cases in Africa, that's what happens, because you're seen to be bringing shame. Now you end up not having anybody to support you, a support system. Mm-hmm. How now do you now move about that?
So with the steps, there's an activity. There's the lesson, and then there's the activity. So in your vibe, your tribe is understanding your adverse childhood experiences, but the activity is to affirm yourself. And so what I have people do is meditation practices. I also have them do affirmations of speaking in the future, in the present of what they want to have. And literally, I would have them set a reminder every hour to listen to it. Now, usually after about a week, they get used to it, of like, oh, wow, even if they're not listening to the affirmation, when they hear the timer, it's like, oh, I know I need to be in this kind of thinking,
right.
And so really it's about affirming yourself, changing those patterns. You have to interrupt it. So
even if you have to leave family, like leave the toxic side of the family
I know I'm worthy of having more. I know that I deserve to be with people that love me.
Right.
And you just have to keep putting it in your mind. It's okay. The body is made for us to not really think positive about ourselves. So we have to go into those practices, whether it's GBV or not, so that we can get to where we want to go. So affirmation is huge in this stage.
Now there you have it. The stages. We're not done with the stages as of yet, right?
No, that's the mindset part. And then now we go into the strategy, which is find your purpose. So I guarantee you, when they start moving in their purpose, they won't ever want to go back, because there's peace there. Right.
You know what? I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back after this. Stay tuned, Gabz-FM, power to engage you. Well, let me just do this one thing, right? In case you just joined the conversation, this is Gabz-FM, power to engage your world. 11:14 is your time, and we're talking about GBV and the solutions to leaving toxic relationships. But before that, here's something interesting. This year, Cresta Joaneng Hotel brings you the second edition of Joaneng Wine Experience on Saturday, 2nd April 2022 from 2 p.m. up until late. Standard ticket is a 250 pula per person. VIP single tickets is 600 pula and 1,100 pula for VIP couples. Tickets available at Cresta Joaneng, Cresta President, and Cresta Lodge Hotels in Gaborone. Live performances by Motla Kwaisan Ancestral Rituals, Nunu Ramohotsi, and DJ Boogie sit on the decks. Brought to you by Cresta Joaneng Hotel, Haburi Tourism Organization, Distel, Fine Brands, Lenga Wines, Benju Wines, G4S, Hydrate Water, Parmalat Botswana, and Fine Foods Botswana.
On air, online, power to engage your world. Gabz-FM.
And we're moving back swiftly into the conversation, the steps now. That was the 4 steps of mindset, right?
Yeah, behind every face is a story. That's the mindset.
Behind every face is a story, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on now. Let's talk to me.
Into the dreaming zone.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do, right? I call that the radical level of belief. You know, I remember when I was a child, like 15, I would say, like, when I get my own house, I'm going to make sure I can pay for my heat bill because I'm always cold. And my mom would be like, you're going to give me $5 because you can't have the heat on. And I remember a couple years ago, I said, well, I'm grown now. Let's make that a reality. And so step 6 is you have a purpose. Find your purpose, okay? As long as you wake up, there's purpose on your life. You're not just here by happenstance. And a lot of people wake up just feeling like, why am I still here? That's why they don't really give it their all. But they have to be reminded that as long as you wake up, you have a purpose before anybody had an opinion. And you really need to tap into that. And so we go through a lesson, the Ikigai model. It's a Japanese model to help you find your purpose. And then I've added an extra question to basically say, what is the thing every day that bothers you? Just like what annoys you about people, you know? And I guarantee you that thing that annoys you is something you should probably be tapping into a little bit more. So we really just help you. Again, you've been serving everyone, yet being served the least. Find your purpose because there's peace there. Yeah.
Okay, can you go back on the thing that you say you wake up in the morning and something annoys you about people? Like, emphasize that.
Yes.
I don't understand.
So I had I had a friend, every job, like I got fired from every job. And so she kind of does too. And I noticed that although she works in communications, she always has a project management issue. It's always about how people are running their business. They don't have systems in place. What if someone else gets hired? How are we going to know how to run? And I'm like, girl, when are you going to just get a project management job? Because that's the thing you love to do. It annoys you so bad to the point where you're about to get fired everywhere. So as it relates to women, when they're able to clear their mind and they're not around those toxic relationships anymore, they can actually just get to themselves and see what their interests are, see what they're good at, and create a vision and values for themselves. So in that stage, you're really going over your values, your identity, creating a mission so that you can live every day. This is what you wake up in, what you want to move towards. You now have the space to do it instead of always thinking about, what is my husband going to think? What is my family going to think? I mean, it literally clouds you. You can't even focus. And so now you have that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I see that. I see the way it cascades down from the mindset now to the dreamland, as you stated, right? So what's the other step?
So step 7 is write your job description, right? Your life job description. So in step 2, you wrote your vision. You know, it wasn't as specific, but now here we get really specific. How do you want to wake up every day? So I challenge them to start with a random Tuesday. Okay. How do you get up? What do you do when you get up? Is there a man there? Do you go have coffee? Do you go take a walk? If you have a business, where do you go to that business? Do you go home? I want to know everything you want to do in this position now. And so you really write your job description. This is a focus a little bit more on the business strategy. And so we get to find that and tap into that a little bit more. But in life, all of that matters. And a lot of people are wanting this life and not adding people in it because they're so used to being alone. Is there a dog there? Are there kids there? Tell me what it is you want so that we can start moving towards it.
So the aim is to move towards what you really want.
Yeah.
What would make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah. And you should start smiling when you're writing this list. It should be like, it should come from a place of joy. And that's when you go back to, man, when I was a kid, I said I wanted to do that, you know? I wanted to move out of the country. You know, I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to work less and not spend so much time at my job. Those things matter, and you can actually have it. So we just get really clear.
Probably having like a childish faith like into it, like really believing like a child and really forgetting about, you know, the anxieties that you face outside, you know, what might happen. Like you said, you know, you've been fired from every job. That doesn't really have to matter at all because you're doing what you love and you're happy at the end of the day, right? Yeah.
That's why I call it the radical level of faith.
There you have it. Yeah. Right. Okay, step 8.
Step 8 is build your capabilities deck. So in businesses, when people first start, they have this deck to say who we are, why we do this, the impact, and the call to action. So personally, let's talk about it. What do you want? Why do you want it? You know, and it needs to be, one of my mentors is Swiss Beats. I feel that, and he always says he doesn't do anything unless it changes the world. And I believe that. And so it should not only be something that benefits you, it should benefit the person next to you, but it should also benefit the world. So we just get very clear on what this thing that you want to do, you're so passionate about, so that you can see it bigger and you can move towards that. A lot of times people have a short-term vision for their life. And so that's why they don't carry it out. That's why they stumble, because they're really not understanding like how big it can be when you really tap in. So build out your capabilities deck. It's just building out your personal value and showing that to others. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I roll. This is my value. You know, these are my boundaries.
And you should be comfortable with it.
Yeah. It's your deck. It's your business. It's your life. And so it matters. No one else is going to give you that value unless you start giving it yourself. And what you'll find is that people respect people who do that.
Boundaries. I get that. No, I get that. I really get that. Yeah. Step 9.
Step 9 is master your craft.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. You did it now. You know who you are. You know why you're doing the things. You know what has affected you. You know the methods to go to continue to affirm yourself. You know what you want to do in the world. You know how you want to wake up. You wrote it down, made it very clear, and now you just have to go and perfect it. And
do it over and over and over again.
Over and over again.
Are you allowed to add more to your list?
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times the feedback that I got when people write their vision is that they're scared to write it because it feels finite. And I believe that that's the reason why, because they think I have to go by this list. But it's ever evolving, you know?
I love that. The fact that now you would think that you have to achieve whatever you've written regardless. But now you're saying you're allowed to move and maneuver as life changes, as you're facing different challenges in life. You have to be able to be flexible, right?
Yeah, you're going to meet new people that are going to help you. And that's why after that, it all ends with community. It's just all encompassing, because literally when you write it down and it's so what you want for your life, there are going to be people who are going to knock on your door and say, hey, can I give you this? Hey, can I give you the desires of your heart? Hey, I've been waiting to serve someone in this capacity. You just have to be ready for it. And so that's what you're doing, mastering your craft. So you never really have to work on your career or your finances, even though I do have you set a high number for what you want to make yearly. But you never really have to work on that. You just work on your spiritual grounding. You work on your mental and physical health, and you work on those relationships, because that's going to be the part that's going to continue to test you.
I love the continuous testing part. So you have to be solid, grounded with who you are.
Yeah. A lot of times this happens for older folks. They always say, I know who I am now. And they don't care how they're received after a certain age. But we need to kind of get there now, you know. And so it's still uncomfortable because it's the other person's opinion. And because sometimes people are severely traumatized, they go back and remember those moments of when they were treated poorly. But you have to still know that I'm going to give myself some grace, you know. Your past has nothing to do with your future, okay? It happened, and let's just move on. And that's when you tap into your community, whether that's people, whether that's an Instagram post, a podcast, a TV show, whatever that is, so you can get back to you.
What about an era where people are so accessible to you? We're talking about the era of social media now. Like you're trying to make yourself, create yourself, recreate yourself in that instance. And people will find ways of dragging you down. And we've seen it in reference to Kevin Hart, right? When he made a statement, homophobic statement in quotes, homophobic statements back in 2013, and it was brought back years later, probably like 7 years later, and he was still dragged on for saying something which he said very immaturely at a very maybe younger age than he was, and he started to recreate that whole aspect. How now would you maneuver that aspect of saying, look, I was young, I made this mistake. Why do people need to go back to previous stuff from the past and try to derail me from me trying to become a better person for myself now?
Well, that's positional power. So what Kevin Hart needed to do is to go back to the drawing board and call a thing a thing. And why is it that this is so important that you let it take you out or let it affect you in that way? And now you see a new Kevin Hart where he really tapped into his own business instead of trying to be seen, valued, and heard in other spaces that were never going to accept him. So again, once he got real with it, he became self-aware. Now he has this business that's now just... He doesn't need anyone now, and he thought he did. But in talking about Kevin Hart, I personally think, and I hope he's listening, I think that I think that Kevin Hart is still trying to be seen, valued, and heard because he didn't have that in his father.
You said something very interesting before, because we're out of time now. You said something very interesting. You said you need to know, he needed to know where he would never be accepted.
Yeah.
Where you never be accepted. You need to be aware of that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're never going to be accepted, just like with your family members. They're never going to treat you differently sometimes. It just won't happen. You know, that husband, he's never going to do the work to see himself so that he can get better. So what I'll say, and to leave people with, and I say this all the time, people are doing the best that they can, and sometimes their best is trash.
Yeah.
And I think what that does is help to free us so we're not staying in these spaces any longer.
I got a call coming in. Gabz-FM, you're live.
Hello. Yes, I just wanted to say I'm enjoying this so much. So could you, the lady in the studio, please leave her details at the end so we could get in touch?
Most definitely, man. She's gonna do that.
Okay.
There's no way she cannot do that. Thank you so much.
All right.
And there you have it. Interesting conversations. People are loving that whole aspect. I think it really resonates around now than now, where people now need to be more assertive and grow away from, the dependency, especially with social media now in that regard. Look, Latoya, I'm out of time. Unfortunately, I'm really out of time. I wish I could have longer conversations with this because I'm getting really, I'm getting there.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good time.
Yeah. Last words. Briefly.
You matter. You deserve. You're worthy. Everything on purpose. Let's start working on the front end of our life instead of the back end. Those are my words.
Start working front side instead of the back end.
Be intentional.
Yeah.
Don't wait for things to go bad before you start making major moves. Should we let the people know how to continue to reach me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Latoya Deshawn on all social media. But if you want to continue this conversation, I'm having a workshop this weekend on Saturday at Avani Hotel from 9 to 12. This is women empowerment, but intentional women empowerment. We're not just trying to take a picture and look good for Instagram. We're not just trying to hear ourselves talk.
Right.
We're trying to move through those strategies so that you can begin to get to the desires of your heart one step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
How long would it take?
I guarantee results in 18 months or less.
I love that. 18 months is like over a year.
Yeah.
It's not a fly by night strategy to say, look, in 2 weeks you should be empowered, new person, new me. What you usually see, like the first week of the new year, like, yo, this is who I am now. This is new me. I'm doing me. I'm cutting people off. Like, after like a week or so, like a month or so, people are back again in your life.
Or
Like,
they
no,
start
I
every
trust
month.
them. They'll change. You know what I mean? Yeah.
They keep posting pictures.
Yeah.
I'm starting again on my healthy eating.
Yeah.
This is day one. It's like day one every month for you. Like
There you have it. Yeah.
You can also catch me on my podcast, Everything on Purpose. So
Everything
I'm
on
Everything
podcast.
on Purpose.
Where can we get? Where can we catch it? Is it YouTube or
all platforms? So Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, all the things. Everything on Purpose.
All right, there you have it. Doctor, last words?
We've been talking from the perspective of the women, but I want also to challenge the men. So GBV will not end because the women are empowered. It will end when the men understand their own value, because when you value yourself, you begin to value another person. So the men need to step up. And the same steps she mentioned, Laitola mentioned about what makes me annoyed. What makes you want to hit this woman? Start questioning yourself. But also, GBV is well and truly alive in the workplace. Why are we treating women different from the way we treat men? It's a form of GBV. When a woman employee feels insecure to come to work because you, the male boss, treat her differently from the way you treat your male friends. So for the men, we need to step up, we need to take charge, and we need to question our motives, and let's end GBV. Otherwise, we will not reach the sustainability goals for 2030, neither will we reach our own vision 2036, because one section of the community will always feel insecure. Then we are no longer inclusive. So to the men, let's step up as the women get empowered. I
love the fact that if you disregard the women, we're never going to achieve the sustainable goals. I wrote a piece in the newspaper, like I called it Mosadi Tari ya Setšhaba, which means the woman bears the nation on her back. And my conversation was really based on that aspect, that you cannot in any way be more sustainable economically without including women and letting them lead the whole inclusiveness of the economy as well. So thank you so much for that, guys. It's been a pleasure. One more time, social media platforms, Latoya.
Latoya Deshawn, LATOYA DESHAUN. You can catch me everywhere. YouTube, Everything on Purpose.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you this Saturday at Avani Hotel for the interactive workshop. We're changing lives over here.
There we go. Doctor, where can we get a hold of you?
Social media, Mwamba Nsebula, right across, or you can look for Leading Edge Consulting, also across the social medias.
There you have it. Gabz-FM, power to engage your world. We have come to the conclusion. Moment of Zen. We're talking about GBV, and thank you so much to Dr. Nsebula as well as Latoya Deshawn.
Abuya